December 7th, 1941, Pearl Harbor. The sky darkened by more than 353 Japanese aircraft diving toward the American fleet in an attack that would forever change the course of the Second World War. Explosions, chaos, total surprise, the annihilation of an entire fleet and sailors sinking to the ocean floor. But what if, at that exact moment, we could go back in time and change something? Place an F-22 Raptor, the most advanced war machine ever built by the Americans, inside a hidden hangar. A fighter jet valued at $150 million, designed to be invisible to radar, capable of reaching twice the speed of sound, and armed with precision missiles and a devastating cannon, facing off head-to-head against the legendary Japanese Zero fighters, which at the time cost the equivalent of only $30,000 each. Would it be a fair dogfight? The Americans with a fifth-generation fighter against aircraft from a completely different era. A single Raptor against hundreds of Zeros. Would ships have been saved? Would American sailors be safe? Or would they still lose their lives? Here, every detail matters. Nothing is as simple as it seems. There are many elements to consider, even in a fictional scenario that blends futuristic technology with one of the most famous attacks in history. Would technological advantage be enough when facing a numerous, coordinated enemy with no idea what they were up against? Today we'll dissect both sides of the equation. On one side, the speed, stealth, and firepower of the F-22. On the other, the composure, numbers, and coordination of an entire squadron of legendary Zeros. We'll question your assumptions, challenge logic, and dive into a clash that never happened, but could have changed everything if the future collided with the past. What if? An F-22 in Pearl Harbor. The real scenario. In 1941, the world was already in flames. Germany was advancing through Europe, crushing nations and plunging Great Britain into a war for survival. The Soviet Union was desperately fighting against the Nazi offensive, while China faced years of brutal invasion by Japan. The United States, though officially neutral, supported the Allies with supplies and weapons through the Lend-Lease program, but had not yet fully entered the conflict. In the Pacific, tensions with the Japanese Empire were growing each month, fueled by economic embargoes and Japan's ambition to dominate the entire region. Pearl Harbor in Hawaii was the heart of American naval power in the Pacific. With a fleet of battleships, aircraft carriers, and dozens of support vessels, along with strategic airfields like Hickam Field and Wheeler Field, it represented an advanced fortress in Pacific waters. For the Japanese, who sought to secure their dominance in Southeast Asia and access to vital resources, this naval power was the greatest threat to their expansion plans. On the morning of December 7, 1941, 6 Japanese aircraft carriers, Akagi, Kaga, Soryu, Hiryu, Shokaku, and Zuikaku, launched 353 aircraft against Pearl Harbor. Dive bombers, torpedo bombers, and about 79 Mitsubishi 6M0 fighters unleashed destruction in 2 coordinated waves. The Zero, fast, agile, and with surprising range, dominated the skies that day, shooting down American fighters before they could even take off. Hangars, runways, and control towers were swept by cannon fire as the American fleet was struck relentlessly. The toll was devastating. 8 warships were sunk or severely damaged, including 5 battleships. The USS Arizona exploded in a catastrophe that claimed the lives of 1,177 crew members. The USS Oklahoma capsized after multiple torpedo hits with 429 lives lost. Other ships, such as the USS West Virginia, California, Nevada, and Utah, were likewise destroyed or seriously damaged. More than 300 American aircraft were destroyed or disabled. 2,403 lives were lost, and over 1,100 were wounded in a matter of hours. On the Japanese side, losses were minimal. Only 9 Zeros were shot down. That attack changed everything. The United States declared war on Japan the following day, fully entering the Second World War. The Zero, with its devastating performance, became a symbol of speed, destruction, and a nightmare. But we will get to that soon. But as we imagined, what if Pearl Harbor had something the Japanese did not expect? What if, hidden under a tarp, there was an ultra-secret, futuristic, almost fictional project, an F-22 Raptor, a fighter jet from 84 years in the future, a 5th-generation radar-invisible aircraft capable of outperforming any plane of that time, an advanced weapon on one of the darkest days in American history? Would that change destiny? a single jet against hundreds of three-blade propellers. Before we find out, we need to understand what kind of machines these two protagonists really are, the legendary Zero and the unparalleled F-22 Raptor. The Zero side. Before imagining an A6M0 face-to-face with an F-22 Raptor, it is essential to understand why the Japanese fighter was so feared at the beginning of the Second World War. The Zero was the pinnacle of a different philosophy: extreme lightness, incredible range, and maneuverability that redefined close-range aerial combat. The A6M0, especially in its initial version, A6M2 Type 0 Model 21, was a long-range carrier-based fighter designed by Mitsubishi for the Imperial Japanese Navy. It was a compact monoplane with a wingspan of 12 meters, a length of 9.06 meters, a height of 3.05 meters, and a total wing area of 22.44 square meters. Its empty weight was approximately 1,680 kilograms, while its maximum combat weight was around 2,796 kilograms, an extremely low value for a fighter with strategic range. It originated from an almost impossible specification: to fly above 500 kilometers per hour, have a range of more than 6 hours with auxiliary tanks, reach 3,000 meters in less than 10 minutes, maintain superior agility compared to any other fighter in the world, and still operate from aircraft carriers, something that typically made planes heavier, with folding wings and reinforced landing gear. The Japanese engineering response was radical: to reduce weight as much as possible. To achieve this, an ultralight aluminum alloy called extra super duralumin was used, and everything that could add mass was eliminated: armor, self-sealing fuel tanks, and even reinforced glass. This made it vulnerable, but incredibly fast and agile. The Nakajima Sakai 12 engine, an air-cooled 14-cylinder radial capable of generating about 940 horsepower at 4,300 meters of altitude, pushed the Zero to a maximum speed of 533 kilometers per hour at around 4,500 meters. Its flight range was impressive: 1,870 kilometers with internal tanks and more than 3,100 kilometers with auxiliary tanks. Its service ceiling reached 10,000 meters, and its climb rate allowed it to reach 6,000 meters in about 7 minutes, equivalent to a climb rate of 15.7 meters per second. Agility was one of its most notable features, with an estimated turn radius of around 170 meters when flying at ideal speeds close to 270 kilometers per hour. This ability to execute extremely tight turns, combined with its light structure and refined aerodynamic design, made it an almost unbeatable adversary in close-range dogfights. Aircraft of the same era like the F-4F Wildcat, P-40 Warhawk, and Brewster Buffalo could not match its maneuverability. Its standard armament consisted of two Type 99 20mm cannons mounted on the wings, each with 100 rounds, along with two Type 97 7.7mm machine guns synchronized on the nose, each with 500 rounds. For offensive missions, it could carry two 60-kilogram bombs under the wings or a single 250-kilogram central bomb. All this firepower, combined with the ability to travel long distances and launch attacks from aircraft carriers, made it a threat to both bombers and other fighters. But everything came at a price. A well-placed shot to the fuel tank would often turn the Zero into a ball of fire. This lack of protection was deliberate, following the philosophy that the best defense is a perfect attack. In a hypothetical encounter with an F-22 Raptor, the Zero would never stand a chance on equal terms with the American fighter. However, it is worth remembering that in 1940, nothing flew like it. At close range with experienced pilots, it was practically untouchable. The A6M0 was a game changer, an aircraft built to hit targets hundreds of kilometers away without logistical support, strike first, and outmaneuver any opponent. But in its time, the Zero was the very F-22 of the Pacific, a bold project that ignored traditional limitations and would shift the aerial balance of an entire war. Yet it also became a flying coffin after its early years, but we will get back to that shortly. Now let's understand the side of the F-22 Raptor side. The F-22 Raptor represents the pinnacle of modern military aerospace engineering, a fifth-generation stealth fighter developed by Lockheed Martin and Boeing to guarantee United States air supremacy for decades. Since its first flight in 1997 and official entry into service in 2005, the Raptor has stood out as a machine that combines stealth, speed, firepower, and electronic defenses in a single package, something never seen before. Its angular design and use of radar-absorbent materials allow it to fly virtually invisible to enemy detection systems, while its supercruise capability, sustained supersonic flight without afterburners, enables it to cover great distances quickly without compromising stealth. Equipped with two Pratt & Whitney F119PW100 engines with two-dimensional thrust vectoring, the Raptor can perform high angle of attack maneuvers that other fighters cannot replicate, dominating close-range combat with ease. The firepower of the F-22 is equally impressive. In air-to-air combat, it internally carries 6 AIM-120 AMRAAM medium-range missiles and 2 AIM-9X Sidewinder short-range missiles, all housed in internal bays to preserve stealth. In addition, it features a 20mm M61A2 Vulcan rotary cannon with extremely high firing capability for close-quarters engagements. For air-to-ground missions, it can carry 2 GBU, 32 JDAM guided bombs weighing 454 kilograms, or 8 GBU 39 SDB small diameter bombs, allowing it to strike strategic targets with surgical precision without compromising its air defense capabilities. If necessary, it also has external hardpoints for additional fuel tanks or weapons, although using these external pylons reduces its stealth profile. The F-22's defenses are among the most sophisticated ever embedded in a combat aircraft. Its radar operates in low probability of intercept modes, capable of detecting and tracking multiple targets at long distances without alerting adversary systems. Combined with an advanced electronic warfare system, the Raptor can identify threats, deploy electronic countermeasures, and even deceive guided missiles. Onboard sensor fusion provides the pilot with complete situational awareness, integrating radar data, missile warning systems, infrared sensors, and external information from other fighters or satellites. Its reinforced airframe and extremely low radar signature enhance its protection, making it difficult to hit. Beyond its remarkable performance, the F-22 is a symbol of exclusivity. No other country is allowed to operate it due to American laws prohibiting its export, making it a strategic asset exclusive to the United States. With a production cost of over $150 million per unit and a total program cost exceeding $60 billion, it was a bold technological gamble. That gamble, however, ensured the USAF an aircraft capable of defeating any known aerial threat. Even in real combat, though designed to face next-generation fighters, it debuted by dropping precision bombs on Islamic State targets in Syria in 2014, and more recently took part in the shootdown of a high-altitude surveillance balloon over American territory, demonstrating its versatility even in unusual scenarios. The result is a unique aircraft, stealthy, extremely fast, highly maneuverable, and equipped with firepower that guarantees the first shot and almost always the first victory. Its presence on the battlefield shifts the dynamics of combat, forcing adversaries to adapt or simply avoid direct confrontation. But the inevitable question is, what if a fighter like this, with all this technology, had been present during the attack on Pearl Harbor? On one side, dozens of Mitsubishi A6M0s, aircraft that dominated the Pacific skies at that moment. On the other, an F-22 Raptor, invisible to the non-existent radars of the time, flying faster than any Japanese plane could ever dream of, equipped with radar-guided missiles and sensors capable of locking onto multiple targets simultaneously. What would that clash have looked like? Pearl Harbor, again. So, what exactly was inserted into 1941? The F-22 can cruise at Mach 1.5 without using afterburners, which means more than 1,770 kilometers per hour, a speed beyond anything that existed in 1941. In addition to its invisibility and 6 AIM-120 radar-guided missiles, capable of striking targets more than 80 kilometers away or nearly 160 kilometers with the latest variants. It also carries 2 AIM-9 Sidewinder short-range heat-seeking missiles for close combat, and an M61A2 Vulcan 20mm cannon with 6 barrels and 480 rounds, capable of firing up to 100 rounds per second. Its radar can track more than 20 targets at once and fire before the enemy even knows it is there. It climbs faster, turns tighter, and flies higher than any aircraft of that time. But it is not invincible, and this is where other aspects come into play. It would have no ground crew, no spare parts, no modern fuel. The Raptor would really have one chance, and after that, it would be over. In 1941, no one would be able to repair it, refuel it, or even understand it, plain and simple. The F-22 runs on JP-8 fuel, a type of modern military aviation kerosene that did not exist in 1941. Even if it managed to land safely, there would be no way to refuel it. No one had the fuel, tools, or technical knowledge required. It could not be rearmed either. Its AIM-120 and AIM-9 missiles did not even exist. And even if someone found them, they would have no idea how to load or launch them. No maintenance crew, no diagnostic systems, no spare parts. If a sensor failed or a system malfunctioned, there would be no fix. And without the proper tools or computer systems, even a simple issue could end the mission. Now Japan launched a surprise attack with 353 aircraft divided into 2 attack waves. The formation consisted mainly of Mitsubishi A-6M0 fighters, Nakajima B-5N torpedo bombers, and Aichi D-3A dive bombers. The bombers were slower than the Zero's 350 km per hour, barely reaching 370 km per hour. These planes had no computers, no radar, no guided weapons. Everything was done manually, from aiming to navigation. If they wanted to shoot at something, they first had to see the target and get close. Their strategy relied on tight formations and overwhelming the enemy with speed and coordination, not technology. And at that time, it worked because no one was prepared for it. But this time, someone would be there. The first wave of Japanese planes approaches, 183 aircraft flying low over the water. The Raptor takes off the moment the first formations are sighted. It gains altitude in seconds with its radar scanning the horizon. In moments, it locks onto multiple targets, all nearly 50 kilometers away, and the Japanese neither see nor suspect it is there. Then missiles would tear through the air. In 1 second, the enemy formation is intact. In the next, several planes explode and vanish mid-flight. No warning, no return fire. Panic sets in. The bombers break formation. The fighters scatter in all directions trying to find the threat. No one knows where the attack came from. The Raptor maneuvers and strikes again. By the time the Japanese pilots realize something is wrong, a dozen planes have already been shot down. They have never seen anything like it, and worse, they still do not know what hit them. The second wave is already on its way, another 170 planes following the same route toward Pearl Harbor. But this time, the element of surprise is gone. Sirens blare, soldiers rush to man the anti-aircraft guns, and up above, a single jet is changing the entire battle. Still, there are more than 300 enemy planes in the air, and no technology can be everywhere at once. Only one jet, and every second it spends chasing fighters at high altitudes. More bombers sneak in at low altitude. The F-22 would dominate the sky, but even that would have a time limit. In intense combat, it burns fuel quickly. After 30 to 40 minutes of aerial combat, it would either land or fall. Meanwhile, the Japanese side had fully functional logistics. Their planes took off from nearby aircraft carriers, loaded with fuel and bombs, with trained deck crews. They could refuel, rearm, and launch dozens of planes every few hours. In 1941, they rehearsed this attack down to the second. So the question remains, can it really stop the attack? Well, Pearl Harbor was not just an air battle. It was a coordinated strike against ships, airfields, and infrastructure. Would a single F-22 change that? Yes, but not completely. If every missile hit its target and the cannon was used perfectly, it could bring down at most 16 enemy aircraft. That would be about 8 planes taken down by missiles and a few more with the Vulcan cannon, depending on how many shots it took per kill. Realistically, it could take down between 8 and 12 planes, enough to disrupt one of the waves but not stop an entire armada. Even that could save ships, save lives, especially if the Raptor focused on taking out the bombers before they reached their targets. But it is logically impossible for it to stop them all. Too many planes, too many angles, too many targets. Some bombers would still get through, and some ships would still be hit. The F-22 would slightly shift the scale of the disaster, reduce losses, but it is fair to say it would not prevent the disaster. But then comes the psychological factor, the shock of something unthinkable in the minds of the Japanese. That alone would hit both sides hard. For the Japanese pilots, it would be total chaos. planes simply vanishing before they even saw the threat. The entire plan could fall apart quickly, and for the American troops on the ground, they would look up and see something they could not explain, a jet no one had ever seen, taking down enemies with ease. They would not know what it is, only that it is on their side. It would not stop Pearl Harbor, but it would shake the attackers, boost morale, and maybe give them a 1 in a million chance to turn panic into a chance to fight. The war would still begin, but not in the same way. It could unfold differently, and it would all remain a big what if. In the end though, the answer comes from mathematics. The first Japanese wave had 183 aircraft. To prevent the attack from having a devastating effect, at least 70% of the bombers and torpedo planes would need to be shot down before reaching the ships, about 120 aircraft. An F-22, operating with full ground support, could carry out 2 sorties in the same attack wave. With an average of 10 to 12 kills per mission, each jet could neutralize 20 to 24 enemies before they reached their targets. Dividing the required total of 120 targets by an average capacity of 20 kills per aircraft, we arrive at an approximate number of 6 Raptors operating in coordination. With that force, the first wave would have its offensive potential broken early, and the second wave would arrive to a completely different scenario: prepared defenses, rearmed Raptors, and falling enemy morale. With 8 Raptors, the attack on Pearl Harbor would likely be contained, and with 12 Raptors available, the first wave could be almost entirely eliminated before launching torpedoes or bombs. That would not only change the outcome of that morning of December 7th, but possibly the initial course of the entire Pacific War. And that just shows the level of technology and air supremacy the United States has today, including the aircraft that not only flies invisible to radar, but redefines the concept of strategic power, the B-2 Spirit, the $2 billion Ghost bomber. Check out this video that has already started, where I explain everything about it.